Thanks. Hi, everybody. Can you all hear us? No? Well, you don't get much louder. This is, we'll get over here. Jim, you got to come over here. The TV guys want to take your picture. I'd like to introduce Jim Davidsaver, who's the Director of Emergency Management, Emergency Services for Lancaster County. Jim's not at all new to Lincoln, and I want him to give us a real quick bio of what you've been doing, all the streets you've been driving and why, and then maybe what you expect from the ham operators as spotters.
As Reynolds said, my name is Jim Davidsaver. I've been the director. How about now? All right. Very good. I am a little bit uncomfortable, but my name is Jim Davidsaver. I took over as the director of Lincoln Lancaster County Emergency Management in August of last year. I retired from the city of Lincoln. I spent 28 years as a police officer. End of July of last year, I retired as a captain and literally started the next day with Lancaster County. I'm a product of the University of Nebraska system. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in community and regional planning. So emergency management was a good fit for me as I was considering my career options when I ended my career with the city. I'm very impressed with the ham radio operators and the storm spotters that I've had an opportunity to deal with so far. I took over late in the storm season last year, so there was only a handful or fewer of activations. But again, it was so easy. Well, I guess I'll stop short of saying how easy it was, but it was very manageable for me to manage the operations in the Emergency Operations Center when I know we have the capable, competent volunteers out there spotting the storms and communicating that with their ham radios. So I look forward to continuing that good relationship moving forward. This is the first opportunity that I've had to attend this the Weatherfest and all of the related things. So again, I look forward to many more in the future.
All right. I'm going to run through a presentation. Jim's going to be here at the end to answer any questions. Can you hear me? There we go. And let's see where we are here. First of all, Skywarn, the right-hand logo, is a product of the National Weather Service. They started the Skywarn process. I think Dave Theopolis, who's also a ham, was involved with creating Skywarn when he was in Indiana. Does that ring a bell? Close enough. So anyway, we're part of the Skywarn operation. Real quickly, last year we had 138 people who attended the training. I think we're doing better this year. We have 168 spotters that now have the state certification, and state certification gives you bragging rights. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Last year we were out 6 times. We're called out by emergency management. We're not called out by the Weather Service. The Weather Service can suggest to emergency management that they want to put out spotters because they're looking at the radars, but we're responsible to emergency management. Part of the reason for that is we're covered by workman's compensation. When Jim or Mark back there gives us a call and says we're needed, tells us what parts of the county to be in, they also have to inform a public official, usually one of the county commissioners, and that activates our workman's comp. We've been doing this for, 30-some years now. We have yet to have a claim against workman's comp, but nonetheless, it's a really nice net to have under us. We have 116 folks who helped last year. House lights are off, but raise your hand if you went out last year on one of our storm spots. We'll get the hands up. There we are. Lots of good hands. Thank you all for helping. We had 764 volunteer hours and logged about 4,700 miles driving around looking for things. As Brian mentioned, we were at little green signs. We're at fixed locations in the county. I'll tell you more about that. We don't like to chase. We consider that to be dangerous, and Brian's videos prove that. We like to be in one location with an escape route. Let's turn the lights on again. Sorry to wear you guys out. Here's the organization for this year. I'm the emergency coordinator for the county. John Marduk, where are you, John? Stand up, wave, make noise. There's John Marduk, is my backup net control and assistant emergency coordinator. Brian Levitt down here in front. Brian, he's the emergency management operations. He'll be on the radio down there along with Aaron and Jerry Lynn if all goes well. Rod Hutt. Rod, where are you? Up, 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 up. There you are. Rod's our liaison with NEMA, Nebraska Emergency Management. And Bob Mitchell. Bob, where are you? There he is up in the corner. He's always up in the balcony. He's our evaluation. He checks all the radios in the hospitals and the radio stations to see what we have. I'll tell you more about that as we get going. Ed Holloway's not here. He's the person that keeps the repeater going. And Ed, incidentally, goes out to the repeater anytime we're called out just to make sure it stays on the air. Rourke, I saw you. Where are you? There's Rourke up in the balcony. And Mike Wasserstein down here in front. They're our warning officers. They set off the alarms. We have 2 alarm systems we use. The one you need to be aware of goes did-it-it, did-it-it, did-it-it. If you're copying code, dit-dit-dit, 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 a series of S's for storm. When Brian or the guys up in Valley put us in a weather watch, we'll turn the repeaters on so they all say did-it-it, did-it-it. So when you hear S's on the repeater, that doesn't mean stop using it. It does mean keep your conversations a little shorter than normal, and in case someone needs to break in and start a net. But it does mean we're into some sort of a storm activity. I want to thank Craig, KT0K. Craig, where are you? There's Craig's been my backup for many years, and he retired. He's going to be a simple spotter, very simple. Greg's always at 1-4. Greg, thank you for all the years you've worked for us. Let's hear it for Greg. And Troy, K0TAS, stand up, and Myron and G0M have been the voices at the EOC, K0EOC, for many years, and they wish to retire this year. Hope they'll be going out chasing with us, spotting, sorry. But they will not be downtown anymore. But thank you guys for many, many hours of work. Let's thank them. Here's the map. It's unchanged. I want to draw your attention to a couple of things up in the top left-hand corner. Well, let's start off with the basics, because many of you have not been trained before with us. The county is divided into 6 sections. Up in the far top left is the northwest. That's Area 1. Then over to its right is Area 2. Beneath that are Areas 3 and 4. And at the bottom of the county, Areas 5 and 6. When the Weather Service asks for spotters through emergency management, they'll call me up and they'll say, here, we need spotters in Areas 1 and 3, or 1, 2, and 3, or whatever. So we very seldom send spotters out at the outset everywhere, but we are in these quadrants. At Area 1, up in the tippy top, you'll see 1-2A, 1-2P, and 1-2. And we can thank the guys who are retiring, Troy and Myron, for that. Those are spots all related to, to Raymond Central High School. Raymond Central at night is difficult to work from because they have a big yard light. So in that case, we move from 1-2, which would be the primary assignment, to 1-2A, which is on 27th Street, just a little bit west. To the north of that, every so often, the Weather Service will ask us to go north a little bit and look into Saunders County. And that's the purpose of 1-2B, is not really to help us here, but to give them some eyes over Valparaiso, over beyond that. Other than that, everything else is the same. Most of the spots, or a few of the spots, are marked with little green signs with the spot number on it. We do want to know when you get to the specific spot in case you disappear, radio dies, or something else happens. We know where you last were, which is real important. Your relatives may ask. So we like to know what. So when you get to your point, be sure and let us know. 5-0 down at the bottom is a very favorite point of ours. Larry, I don't see you now. Lights are out. Frankie, put the lights on. Where's Larry O's? Just a minute. There's Larry. Larry O's was the spotter down at that point, 5-0, when the Hallam tornado went through. He was the first to experience the tornado because his car was buffeted by gravel from the road that the funnel picked up and was throwing around. A brand new Suburban, I might add, and it was demolished. But nonetheless, if you listen to the tapes, Here's Larry down there at the point giving just solid reports like nothing else is going on. I remember when he said the car's buffeting around. This is 5-0 or whatever it is. Unbelievable. So thank you, Larry. And he's back in it. You'll hear him down at the emergency management place hopefully sometime. Everything else is about the same. Any questions on the storm points? The one thing I'm often asked is when people check in, they say, hey, I want to go to my normal point. We have no normal points. It's all luck of the draw. You ask for area 1, 3, 5. As you check in, we'll make assignments to you in areas 1, 3, and 5. There's no reservations. You can't do this a day ahead. When we started this 25 years ago, we in fact made the spotter appointments at locations in the log, our club publication, who was going to be on what point. It's much more fluid now, and everybody gets to move around a little bit. So you may be assigned to any point. You will receive all this information in the email. You'll get a packet with all this. Spotter points are for folks who are 18 years of age or older, and that's in accord with volunteer laws regarding to volunteer fire departments, I think is where that stemmed from. But if you're not 18 and you have a ham license and have been through the hoops here, we have lots of other things you can do. Thanks to emergency management, we have radios at Bryan Hospital, St. E's, Madonna, the Heart Hospital, and the Surgical Center. They like to be online because their follow-up, if something happens, if we have a tornado, they like to have a follow-up of communications there in case we need to tell them something important. Also, they like to hear the watches and warnings, particularly the warnings posted before they go public, and they will on the ham radio networks, because many of them have things they need to do, SOPs within the hospital, moving patients, getting them away from windows. In one hospital, they move all their patients into the hallways. So they like to hear W0NWS, National Weather Service. That's our station in Valley. And it'll come on and tell us that they're going to issue a warning for northern Lancaster County. And it may be just a minute ahead of when it gets to the press and everywhere else. But in that hospital situation, that 1 minute can be real important. So there's jobs for everybody as a take-home message. In addition to the hospitals, we have, I call them spotters, but they're not spotters. They're trained by you guys, so you're all spotters. But they are not doing any spotting. They're just providing information at KFOR, which is 6 broadcast stations. KLIN is 5 stations. Also, we have a spotter that goes into KLKN and one at KOLN. So we're really covered with the media, and they're all online and hear everything that you hear. When we're asked, why don't you do this with cell phones, there's the reason. We have a party line. Everybody can hear everything that's happening, and from an emergency standpoint, safety standpoint, that's really important. But we have folks everywhere. You'll see hands every so often come into the picture at KOLN passing a note into Ken Shimmick, and that's telling him that, hey, one of those spotters has seen something somewhere. So we have media points, and the two here, KLKN and KOLN, we do need to cross-band into and out of. The radio stations do have their own ham radios. In fact, this KLIN just bought a brand new one, and Bob has checked them all out, and they're all running. In addition, we have folks down at the EOC. As I mentioned, Brian, K0BCL, and Gene, K0JSL, will be down there, and or Aaron, N0ADR, and Jerry Lynn, N0JLR, and that's the station K0EOC, logically. So when you hear K0EOC, that's words from downtown coming to us. We also have a station set up at airport security. We don't always man it. It depends on what may be coming. But they really like to hear about high winds. High winds have a tendency to move planes around a little bit. So if we have a chance for high winds or hail, we'll often put a station out to airport security. National Weather Service in Valley is usually manned by folks from the Exarban Radio Club. It's exactly a 1-hour drive from here to get up there. So I can assign people to Valley, but unfortunately it's a long haul, and by the time you get there, things will basically be done. But we're very thankful to the Exarban Radio Club in Omaha for providing operators there, and they're very, very good, very professional. We also have a station set up at the University of Nebraska Police, and it's N0UNL, logically. And so if you hear it, that's where that's coming from, and that's coming from their EOC. They have a very nice EOC. It's down in the bottom of the parking garage at 17th and R. So for you, you need to stay on top of what's going on. It's really your responsibility to know that we may be needed. We like to use KOLN-TV's weather alert. There are other weather alerts Brian mentioned, but you get that in your cell phone or wherever, letting you know that we're in a watch or a warning. If you do note that, it's time to turn on media, time to turn on a radio or TV. Be near your NOAA radio so you know what's going on, so you can hear when we're asked to go out. We'll use cell phone text messaging to do a call out. That's why I asked who your cell phone carrier is in the material you got when you signed in. We'll only send it out to those who want it, but that's the fastest way. We also have CTCSS tones on the repeaters. 123 hertz tone, which if you've been following the club format, will be your channel 2, is the system that we can set off by sending out that tone. It turns your radio speaker on. We normally run our radios with 100 hertz CTCSS, and if you don't understand that, let me know and we'll straighten it out for you. But 123 hertz we'll send out when we start a net, and Mike or Rourke are the guys that blow those sirens, blow those horns for us, so your radios go on or off or whatever. So we've checked all those points. I showed you the map. Jim, Mark Hosking is way back. Mark, you need to be recognized. Can you hit the lights again, Brian? Here they come. Lights. There you go. There's Mark in the back. Why don't you come up here so we can see you upstairs? Okay. I just want them to know who to aim things at. Jim, Mark, and I drove 9 hours, 2 days, 270 miles, checked every storm watch point. Troy has done this in the past diligently and given us points that need to be moved, and we adjust them accordingly, and we'll miss you doing that. Maybe we can hire you back, Troy, I hope. So the only assignment that's changed this year is 6-6. That was moved last year to Mr. Right, but we had it in KR0P's driveway for a short period of time, and we put it back to where it is on the maps and in the documentation. That particular point takes about 40 minutes to get to from Lincoln, and this is why we like to have lots of lead time, Brian, from the Weather Service when things might get bumpy out there. So 6-6 is back to where it was last year. Our repeater assignments, be aware of 146.76, the K0KKV repeater, is our primary net repeater. Backup is K0SIL's repeater, and it's at Southwest 40th and Saltillo Road, covers the entire county, 147195, and we occasionally slide over there. We also have the N0FER as a backup repeater, 14519. That's on the west side of the airport, and it's huge coverage. And K0LNE, the 2585 repeater here in Lincoln, has been used for hundreds of years, literally. It's a great repeater and gives us good backup. W0DMS 444.1 is a UHF repeater. We'd like you all to use that for your talk around. If you don't want to get on the net and say, hey, Brian, what do you see over to your left? Go up on 444.1, and that can be a little gossipy off the net, where you can gossip with one another and not disturb people. What do you see over there? So 444.1 is going to be our talk around. I'll be sending packets out to everybody that has all this in it, maps and whatever, and that should go out hopefully in a day or two or a week or two. It's got the points, the map, driving directions, explicit driving directions on getting to points, and also getting away from points. As Brian mentioned, there's some points that are at the end of the gravel, and you don't want to go back the wrong way, you're in the mud. And after a rainstorm, if you're in the mud, you're going to be in the mud for a day or two until we come to get you out. So follow the driving instructions on getting to and from points. I've got the organization in there I've introduced you to, frequencies to monitor if you have a scanner. Brian mentioned watching your handheld device on your computer. We would prefer you not be doing that. If your head's down in your lap watching a computer or your Android watching the radar, you're not watching the horizon. And we would just as soon you let us tell you And Mark and Jim are going to be excellent at this, telling the net to take a look, have the spotters take a look over by whatever and giving us a location. We want your eyeballs. Please don't use other devices. It's just asking for trouble for all of us. Weather Words is an article that Greg put together years ago. It's really great. We've got the same codes for WX720. How many of you have a weather radio in home? Let's do it this way. Let's embarrass somebody. Who does not have a weather radio in home? Anybody? Nobody wishes to be embarrassed. That's good. I'll also put in there a field resources manual from the ARRL, which is interesting. We want you to depend on your NOAA weather radio, and it's the best way to get information. You can sign up for those watches and warnings I mentioned. If you hear a watch posted, please monitor the repeaters. They should be going dit-dit-dit, but nonetheless, even if they aren't, monitor the repeater for additional information. We'll send that text out, and here's the CTCSS, the sub-audible frequencies, 123 hertz when we start in that, and it's a DTMF 767 if you have a radio that does DTMF decoding, which you all do, but you didn't know it. Storm reporting. Brian said to do what we tell you to do. Well, he told you what we're going to tell you to do. We want the same information he does. The wind direction, gust, precipitation when it begins or ends, hail, obviously beginning and ending, size of hail in terms of coins, any wall clouds, lowering, rotation. We're looking for the same things the Weather Service is. And remember, the Weather Service hopefully is monitoring our frequency, listening to us, and hearing your reports. Your reports should be succinct. Brian gave a good example of push to talk. We talk about push to think, and we don't need that. Have what you're going to say kind of worked out mentally before you push to talk. A good report shouldn't take but 10, 12 seconds. If you're on giving us a report for 30, 40 seconds, you're in the push to think mode, not the push to talk. But the information that there's what we're going to be looking for. Now, if we're having a net and we're up and running, the only report what's more important than what was just reported. All right? If Greg and Martha report a funnel up at 1.4, it would not be appropriate for me to be the next one on and say, I'm down in 2.3 and I've got light rain. All right? We don't care about light rain anymore. We only care about that funnel. So listen to the net and only report what's more important than the last report. Now, if it's a 5, 10, 15, 20-second lag, maybe it's all done, then you can jump back in. But boy, it really is irritating to everybody to hear light rain reported, interrupting, in fact, when somebody's seen a funnel. And I suppose up at the Weather Service, Brian, you have folks on the phone reporting funnels and people on the blinking light on the phone report it's going to start to rain. The other things to remember is this is not a picnic. Don't bring the family. Any distractions you have in the car are dangers to you. You need to be watching the horizon, watching for cloud formations, watching the weather. Watch the sky. Don't watch your computers. Don't watch your toys. And those computers and smartphones are fabulous. I've got several radar depictions in my Android, but when you're looking at that, you're not looking where you need to be looking. And I see people now when the storms are bumping around. I was up in Minneapolis last weekend, and they had some weather up there, and people are clearly looking at the weather radar on their phone while they're driving down the interstate. And it's just not a smart thing to be doing. What to take when you go out? You should have a little duffel bag in your car with some things, water, a couple of bottles of water, some snacks, flashlight, boots, because if you do pull off the wrong way on the road or into the farm field, you might need to push your car out. And flip-flops are not good in puddles or in mud. And then take some more snacks because you might be there for a while. I think our longest call out ever was what, Mike? About 10 hours? Does that sound right? 14 hours. Out for 14 hours. And that was a series of storms, and we were able to get loose 3 times in that period to go get some pop or whatever you're excused for right now, but we'll reconvene the net in 30 minutes because we're having waves of storms come in. But nonetheless, carry some snacks with you. And remember also that we're there to do phase 2 if necessary, and that's why we have hams in the various hospitals. If a tornado strikes, we have our communications network then up and running in all the hospitals to provide help. We are the backup system for 911. It goes down occasionally, far too often, I guess, and we're the ones that fill in the gap. We also staff the incident command, which is downtown in the EOC. We've got the operators in medical facilities should they be needed. We'd put operators in the shelters if Red Cross has to open shelters. And then we'll do the preliminary damage assessment. For you folks who are brand new, after the Hallam tornado, within 3 hours following the tornado, we had surveyed over 100 square miles and reported back to the EOC where issues were lines were down, power lines, power poles, trees, so they could organize the Public Works Department to go out and start the cleanup. So we have great responsibilities. Classes, I mentioned, hopefully they start next Tuesday at Union College, Kruger Halls on the northeast part of the campus, about 51st or 52nd and Bancroft. They're free, take 5 weeks, and many of you have been through the classes. You know they're painless and even fun. Yeah. I don't know. 130. Thank you, Richard. 130. We also like you to be aware of the incident command system. There's 4 online courses you can take. They're all really interesting. They take some time to go through, but they help you understand the structure. If we do have an emergency of any sort, you can understand how the command structure is going to work, who's going to be in charge, and how the orders are carried up and down. We start with the ICS 100. You can just Google that, FEMA ICS 100. It's a great course. And if you only do that, it's well worth your time to understand the basics of the command system. And certificate of completion of the SPOT. This is what you get when you do the online courses, the Met Ed courses. There are 2 of those, Rural the Skywarn Spotter and Convective Basics. When you take those, I'm sorry? Well, Ken, you've expired. I think he's okay. Anyway, when you take it, you put in my email address, and I'll get a copy of your certificate, and we do keep track of these. The reason for that is for state certification, there are several steps you need to go through. LB 573 in 2012 was the law that did this, and it gives us the opportunity to call ourselves credentialed or whatever spotters. But you need to take those 2 courses online. If you don't know where they are, I'll help you find them. You attended today, you're all here, the training, and at the end of this, I'll have a written exam for you, 15 quickie questions, and if you get all 4 of those done, you'll be a storm spotter with credentials. What a deal. Now, you say, well, I don't have any credentials, but I want to go spotting. You'll still go out. We'll take you. It's not a concern. You'll be on a lower priority. I'll put the credentialed spotters out first, and then come back and fill in with the folks that haven't completed the sequence. But everybody's valuable, everybody's needed, so feel free to do this. What the credential system really does is give Jim bragging rights for Lancaster County. He's got 180 or something like that credentialed spotters in Lancaster County, which is, I think, the largest number in the state. I'm sure it is. And so when he goes to state meetings, he can, what can you do? You can tell them. So anyway, those are the 4 steps, the 2 online courses. You've done the 3rd one, and the written exam we'll do when we get done here. And that's it. For my part, Brian, turn on the lights to see if there's any questions. Jim's here also for any questions, and Brian also for any follow-up questions. So, are there any questions? Anywhere? Yes, Jim. Right, we're going to do a better job of that. I remember the incident you referred to. But we've got a good backup system now, and they know what's going on. Mike and Rourke are on top of who's where and can call us out, and that will not happen again. That was several years ago. Question was if the net controllers, if John Murdoch or I are not available, how does the net get started? And we have a backup system. All right. It'll probably be Mike Wasserstein, KV0 DNP, putting the spotters out and giving them locations. Any other questions? Great. Myron, what's the status of NAWAS? I know you've been working on that issue. Okay, they do have a location. The box was broken, and I spoke with them yesterday at a meeting, and the box was supposed to be taken to Omaha to the guy that built it to get fixed. But anyway, we hope to have NAWAS up, and I expressed to the folks from NEMA that it was really important to us to have that. So hopefully it'll get worked on. NAWAS is a really neat system we have that hooks all the weather bureaus together. It's a hardline phone system. And what they've done at Nebraska Emergency Management is tapped that phone system and put it up on a UHF frequency so that we can listen to them calling one another. You can hear Brian come on and say, well, Hastings weather, this is Valley weather. And we can hear them talking. What are you seeing here? What are you seeing there? It's a really great system. But you're right, it's currently down and hopefully back up soon. But I've said that now for a year, but I don't work for the folks that fix things. Other questions? Preferably of a non-embarrassing kind here. Any other questions? All right. How many folks are going to take the test now? The test, oh geez. The test is for folks who are new to the system or last took it in 2012. So if you took it in 2012, it's a 3-year certificate. You do need to retake the test. Or if you've not ever taken it in the past, you need to retake it. So, any questions for Jim before we go home? No? Questions for Brian? Wow, you're all too easy. Okay, if you're not taking the test, why don't you leave, and then we're going to reposition those who are going to take the test.